Hello everyone and welcome to the first half of my PopSugar reading challenge TBR. So if you don't know, PopSugar is a lifestyle website that I think is probably predominantly aimed at women, but it publishes features on things like entertainment, travel, fashion, beauty, food, all of that kind of stuff. But also every year it puts on a reading challenge. So PopSugar gives you a whole bunch of prompts, and obviously the aim is to cover each of the prompts over the course of the year. This is actually my first time doing the PopSugar reading challenge and I'm really excited for it. I think as it's my first time doing it, I'm just going to stick to the basic reading prompts because there is an advanced version of the challenge with I think it's like 10 extra prompts that you can do if you want to, but I'm just going to stick with the basic one for my first time out and see how I get on. Even on the basic challenge there's still like 40 reading prompts, so I think that's probably enough to keep me going for now. And obviously because there are 40 reading prompts, I'm going to try not to combine them, so I have selected a book for each of them. If I was going to do a TBR with 40 odd books in, I do not have the time or the capacity to film a video that long. You do not have the time or the effort or the commitment to watch a video that long. So that is why I have split this TBR into two halves. So this is of course the first half of the TBR. I will list all of the prompts that I mentioned in this video in the description down below as well. So if you hear a prompt that you are interested in, or you can immediately think of a book for it, obviously jump on that prompt and join in the challenge with me. That would be really awesome to get you guys involved in this as well. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right on into it. So the first prompt is to read a book that is becoming a film in 2019, and for that I'm going to read The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, and this is a Victorian Gothic ghost novella, I think, and I think it's about a woman who goes to be a governess for these two children in this really big house, and as time goes on she starts to suspect that possibly the house and the grounds are haunted. That's pretty much all I know about it. It definitely sounds like my kind of thing. I've heard really good things about it. This is becoming a film which I think is just going to be called The Turning, and I think that comes out in February, March kind of time, and I think it might be a sort of contemporary updated version of the original Victorian story. It's got Finn Wolfhard in it, who is one of the Stranger Things kids, and he's also in the remake of It that came out a couple of years ago as well. I think he's a great actor, so really looking forward to that film, and obviously hopefully reading the source material before it comes out too. The next challenge is to read a book that makes you nostalgic. So for that I'm going to be reading My Mum Tracy by Jacqueline Wilson. So this is actually a proof that I got from the lovely people at Penguin Random House Children's. This book did actually come out beginning of October, I think, so it's been out a little while now and I just haven't got around to reading it yet. But Jacqueline Wilson was one of my very first ever favourite authors. I absolutely adored and devoured her books when I was in my pre-teens, early teenage years. I just absolutely loved her, and Tracy Beaker was definitely one of my favourite characters of hers. So I'm super excited to see Tracy all grown up, see what's gone on with her. Obviously she's a mother now. I'd love to see how much of a mother she really is. I believe this is actually from the perspective of her daughter as well, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, really looking forward to getting back to Tracy, see how she's been, and reading a Jacqueline Wilson book again. I know it's just going to give me all of the nostalgic feels, so really excited for this one. The next prompt is to read a book set in space, and for that I'm going to be reading A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, and this is the second book in the Wayfarers series. The first one is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which I read and loved a couple of years ago now. That book is just so funny, so action-packed, a really great, lovable, quirky cast of characters. I'm not entirely sure this book revolves around the same characters though. I feel like it might be a sort of companion book rather than a direct sequel, but I have heard really good things about the rest of the books in this series, so yeah, really looking forward to getting some Becky Chambers back in my life. The next prompt is to read a book by two female authors, and for that I'm going to be reading The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaffer and Annie Barrows, and this is a historical romance book set just after World War II, I think, obviously on the island of Guernsey, which is one of the Channel Islands, and I think it's about the German occupation of Guernsey. I know that it follows a young writer who is on a book tour for her latest book, and she uncovers this book club that's basically a front for people hiding from the Nazis, I think, something like that. I've heard really good things about it. I know the film came out last year. I heard pretty good things about that too. So yeah, really looking forward to getting into this. I feel that this is definitely a book for book lovers. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. The next prompt is to read a book written by a musician, and I think this is a really interesting prompt. So for this one, I'm going to be reading The Creakers by Tom Fletcher. So Tom Fletcher is the lead singer and lead guitarist of McFly, the boy band McFly, and he's also in the boy band McBusted. He's also a children's author. I have read The Christmas Saurus by him. Really loved it. It was super cute, and this one is, I think, a slightly creepy magical adventure about a little girl who wakes up one morning and all of the grown-ups in her town have disappeared, and I think she uncovers these strange little creatures living under her bed who may be responsible for this or something like that. It just sounds really cute, and I really love Tom Fletcher's writing style, so yeah, really looking forward to this one too. The next prompt is to read a book that contains salty, sweet, bitter or spicy in the title. So for this one, I'm going to be reading A Bitter Orange by Claire Fuller, and I think this is like a sort of contemporary thriller kind of thing about this woman who leads quite a lonely, isolated life, and then I think a couple move into her building and they take an interest in her and they befriend her, and she becomes obsessed with them, and she uncovers some slightly unsavory secrets about them or something like that. I'm really intrigued by it, and obviously it's got the word bitter in the title, so therefore it qualifies for this prompt. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. The next prompt is to read a book set in Scandinavia, and some of you may know I have a slight fascination with Scandinavian culture. I love anything set in Scandinavia. So for this one, I'm going to be reading The Crow Girl by Erik Axel Sund, and this is literally just a really chunky, gritty, probably very violent Scandi crime thriller, and I just absolutely love these. I think Erik Axel Sund is Swedish, but I could be wrong about that. I think it's Swedish. I don't know. If you've read it, let me know. If you've read this, obviously, let me know what you think about it, because yeah, really excited for this one. The next prompt is to read a book that you think should be turned into a movie. So I haven't actually read this book yet, so I don't know whether I can definitely say that I want it to be turned into a movie, but the reason I picked it for this prompt is because I would love to see how someone puts all of these genres together onto the big screen. So for this prompt, I'm going to be reading We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. So I think the only way I can probably describe this book is just to read you the back of it. So it says, there are few things Henry Denton knows and a few things he doesn't. Henry knows his mum is struggling to keep the family together and coping by chain-smoking cigarettes. He knows his older brother is a college dropout with a pregnant girlfriend. He knows he's slowly losing his grandmother to Alzheimer's, and he knows his boyfriend committed suicide last year. What Henry doesn't know is why the aliens chose to abduct him when he was 13, and he doesn't know why they continued to steal him from his bed and take him aboard their ship. He doesn't know why the world is going to end, or why the aliens have offered him the opportunity to avert the impending disaster by pressing a big red button. But they have, and they've only given him 144 days to make up his mind. The question is whether Henry thinks the world is worth saving. That is until he meets Diego Vega, an artist with a secret past who forces Henry to question his beliefs, his place in the universe, and whether any of it really matters. But before Henry can save the world, he's got to figure out how to save himself, and the aliens haven't given him a button for that. So it just sounds like an awesome mix of YA contemporary, coming of age, possibly slightly heartbreaking, mixed with sci-fi and action, disaster kind of thing. Just sounds really good and really interesting, totally unique. So yeah, I would love to see how this book goes, and therefore I would love to see if my desire to see that kind of thing on the screen would work, and whether I do think this definitely should be a film. So yeah, really looking forward to getting into this one. The next prompt is to read a book with at least 1 million Goodreads ratings. So these are literally books that everyone and their mother has read. So for this one, I'm going to read The Giver by Lois Lowry, and I've never actually read this book. I know so many people read it in school. I think a lot of American schools do have it on their curriculum. I've never read it. I don't even know too much about it. I know it's a YA dystopian that I think first appears to be a utopian, but then you kind of discover how it's not really. There's some really like dark stuff going on underneath. And I think it follows a boy who's set to like inherit the title of leadership of this society, and he struggles with that. I think it's going to be quite philosophical, lots of questions about life and our existence and the universe and things like that. That's pretty much all I know. I don't want to know too much else going into it, but yeah, really excited to finally read The Giver. The next prompt is to read a book that takes place in a single day, and for that I'm going to read The Dinner by Herman Koch, and this literally takes place over the course of a meal, I think. So the back just says, one evening in Amsterdam, two couples meet for dinner. They need to discuss their teenage sons. The boys have committed a horrifying crime caught on CCTV. They remain unidentified except by their parents. How far will each couple go to protect their child? So it just sounds really, really good. Yeah, it just says on the front, smart, shocking and unputdownable, gripping, engrossing. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for this one too. The next prompt is just to read a debut novel. So for this one, I'm going to read The 7 Deaths of Evelyn, Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. And this is a book that I've wanted to read for the longest time. I've heard that it's very, very cleverly written. I'm just going to read you the back of this. It says, at a party thrown by her parents, Evelyn Hardcastle will be killed. Again, she's been murdered hundreds of times, and each day Aidan Bishop is too late to save her. The only way to break this cycle is to identify Evelyn's killer. But every time the day begins again, Aidan wakes in the body of a different guest, and someone is desperate to stop him, ever escaping Blackheath. So it just sounds really intriguing. I've heard really, really good things just about the way and the style in which this is written. So I think this is really going to make me think, and I'm going to be tearing my hair out trying to uncover who did this. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. The next prompt is to read a book with a plant on the cover or in the title, and for this I'm going to read The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinge. This is another book that I've wanted to read for ages and ages. The back of this one just says, when Faith's father is found dead under mysterious circumstances, she's determined to untangle the truth from the lies. Searching through his belongings for clues, she discovers a strange tree, a tree that feeds off whispered lies and bears fruit that reveals hidden secrets. But as Faith's untruths spiral out of control, she discovers that where lies seduce, truths shatter. So it just sounds like a really cool, dark, magical mystery. So yeah, really looking forward to this one too. The next prompt is to read a book that is published this year in 2019, and I've actually already read this book because I had an ARC of it from NetGalley, so I'm not going to talk too much about it until obviously my wrap up, but that is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite, and I've got a feeling this came out elsewhere in the world last year, but I don't think it comes out in the UK until later on this week, so therefore it's a 2019 book, to me anyway. As I said, I have already read it. I actually read it over the course of yesterday. It's not very long and I really, really enjoyed it. This is a kind of family drama thriller set in Lagos in Nigeria. I think Lagos is in Nigeria. And basically it follows a narrator whose sister is a serial killer, and how she covers up her sister's crimes, really. It's all about her loyalty to her sister. Obviously, what does she do when she knows what her sister's doing is terrible? What happens when her sister sets her sights on someone that our narrator really likes? Really, really good. Very, very interestingly written as well. Obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about my thoughts and feelings on it until my wrap up, but yeah, this is my book published in 2019. So yeah. The next prompt is to read a book featuring an extinct or an imaginary creature. So for this, I'm going to be reading Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I believe this has a dragon in it, I think. or is it a troll? It's got some kind of creature in it. I'm going to read you the summary. It says, Agnieszka loves her valley home, her quiet village, the forest and the bright shining river, but the corrupted wood stands on the border full of malevolent power and its shadow lies over her life. Her people rely on the cold ambitious wizard known only as the dragon to keep the wood's powers at bay, but he demands a terrible price for his help. One young woman must be handed over to serve him for 10 years, a fate almost as terrible as being lost to the wood. The next choosing is fast approaching and Agnieszka is afraid. She knows, everyone knows, that the dragon will take Keisha. Beautiful, graceful, brave Keisha, all the things Agnieszka isn't, and her dearest friend in the world. And there's no way to save her. But no one can predict how or why the dragon chooses a girl, and when he comes, it's not Keisha he will take with him. So that sounds super exciting, obviously very dark, very magical, so yeah, that is that one. The next prompt is a reread of a favourite book, and I'm super excited to reread Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is one of my favourite books of all time, and it's just been so long since I've read it. I don't think I could tell you too much about this without spoiling all of the best bits or telling you how it is one of the best books ever, but it's very much overdue a reread from me, so yeah, really excited to have an excuse to reread it, so yeah. The next prompt is a book about a hobby. So for this one, I'm going to read The Astonishing Colour of After by Emily X.R. Pan. And I think the art and drawing features heavily in this, I hope. So the back says, when Lee's mother dies by suicide, she leaves only a scribbled note, I want you to remember. Lee doesn't understand its meaning and wishes she could turn to her best friend Axel, if only she hadn't kissed him and changed everything between them. Guided by a mysterious red bird, Lee travels to Taiwan to meet her grandparents for the first time. There, Lee retreats into art and memories where colours collide, the rules of reality are broken, and the ghosts of the past refuse to rest. But Lee is determined to unlock her family's secrets to remember. So, yeah, I'm hoping the art features heavily in this, and therefore hopefully it will qualify for the prompt of a book about a hobby. I think I was first interested in this book because it reminded me, it kind of sounded like a Jandy Nelson book, and I've never read another YA contemporary author who writes quite as amazingly as Jandy Nelson does, so I'm hoping that this might remind me of her books. So yeah, really looking forward to this one too. The next prompt is to read a book recommended by a celebrity that I admire. So for that, I'm going to read The Power by Naomi Alderman, and this is one of the books in Emma Watson's book club that she really enjoyed. I love Emma Watson, not just as an actress, but also as a person. I just think she is absolutely incredible. And I've heard really good things about this book. I think it was heavily featured everywhere a couple of years ago when it did win, or it was at least nominated for a couple of awards. But this is a dystopian set in a world where women have developed the ability to transmit electricity through their fingertips, so therefore they are the dominant gender. And obviously you can imagine all of the stuff that is different about our world that is probably the case in this book. So yeah, really looking forward to diving into this one finally too. The next prompt is to read a book that I meant to read in 2018. So I've actually meant to read this book and this whole series actually for ages and ages, not just last year, and that is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, because I kind of feel that everyone here on BookTube has read this Mortal Instruments series, and I've never ever picked them up. This is actually the only one in the series that I own. This is of course the first book. But it's on my PopSugar TBR now, so I'm going to read it. I'm sure I will enjoy it. I have heard very mixed things about this series. Certainly as it goes on, I've heard very mixed things about the later books. But I think all I know really is Demon Hunters in New York, right? And that sounds like my kind of thing. So yeah, I'm going to give it a go, and yeah, hopefully I will enjoy it. So yeah. The next challenge is to read a book with love in the title, and for this I'm going to read This Is a Love Story by Jessica Thompson, and I think this is literally just a very cutesy adult contemporary romance. At the back says, this is a love story, a boy meets girl and girl falls for boy, that much is true, but when Sienna meets Nick, it's not the way it happens in love stories, it's because of a squirrel on water skis. She sees Nick's dangerous brown eyes and thinks, don't fall into them. Who will be there to catch Sienna when she falls? She is so fragile, she has so many secrets, and he is not that serious. So it sounds like it might be my kind of thing. I do really love these books, just as pure escapism from time to time. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. And the last book that I'm going to mention in this half of my PopSugar reading challenge, a TBR, the prompt is read a book with PopSugar or challenge in the title. And I don't know whether I'm slightly cheating with this one. I possibly am, but I'm going to read Challenger Deep by Neil Shusterman. I've had this book for ages. I've never read a Neil Shusterman book before. But I'm really intrigued by this one. I believe this is about a boy with schizophrenia, and I think it's possibly inspired by his son or his nephew, somebody close to him who really has schizophrenia. So I think it might be quite accurate as to what it actually deals with. And I really love mental health books that are very true to life and that do give a very true, accurate representation of what they're talking about. So yeah, really looking forward to this one too. And that is it for the first half of my PopSugar reading challenge, a TBR. Do you think you'll be joining me on any of these prompts? Please let me know, and stay tuned for the second half, which will be coming to you by the end of the week. So I will leave all of my social media in the description down below as normal. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye bye.